So you're thinking about moving to Kansas City and you're looking for an honest perspective of the pros and cons of living in Kansas City? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do in this video, and we're getting after it right now. So full disclosure, I've lived here twice. I actually grew up here on the Kansas side in Johnson County, which is one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Kansas. Now my family and I reside in Kansas City, Missouri in the Brookside neighborhood, which is located in the historic Country Club district in Kansas City. Now people ask me all the time, why did you move back to Kansas City from Denver? And in this video, I'm gonna go through some of the pros and cons of living in Kansas City compared to living somewhere else. Denver is a beautiful and wonderful place to live, and don't get me wrong, I miss it every day. The mountains, the dry climate, no bugs, but there are a lot of things I don't miss about it as well. So let me give you a little backstory. In 2011, I relocated to Denver from Olathe, Kansas, and I was in my early 20s and still trying to figure things out and really just needed a change of scenery. In 2013, I met my now wife on a visit back to Kansas, and we dated long distance for about 8 months before I convinced her to move to Denver. The 7 years following that were crazy. We had 2 boys, lost a cat, gained 2 more cats, and a Siberian Husky. But the one thing about Denver is we never really were able to plant deep roots there. One thing that I noticed about Denver, it is this melting pot, and with all of the people that have moved there over the last 10 to 15 years, I found that Denver is kind of in the midst of an identity crisis. So in 2020, when things were crazy for everybody, we decided to pack up everything and move back to Kansas City. Now, landing on the Missouri side in Brookside was intentional because my wife and I both grew up in Johnson County and both grew up in the suburbs. And when we lived in Colorado, we lived in the suburbs as well. The main reason for that is we just couldn't afford to live in some of these areas in Denver that we really liked, like Wash Park, the Highlands. You know, these highly desirable areas were just way out of our price point. So after exploring the Brookside neighborhood and the Country Club district a little bit more, we decided to pull the trigger on a home, and we have not regretted it since. Now, we haven't regretted purchasing the home that we bought since. Sometimes we have regretted leaving Denver, but I think that's just a natural part of the process. Now, we moved here to be closer to relatives, but what we found is a sense of community and family that reaches far outside of our immediate family members. And that's the first pro I want to talk about. On our street, we have 26 kids in the Brookside neighborhood. It is this neighborhood that's over 100 years old. So you have a lot of older folks that live here, but really the neighborhood has started to turn over. The people we bought our house from raised 3 boys in this home, and they lived here for over 20 years. And that's really what you find in this neighborhood is when people move here, they typically don't leave until the kids are all grown, which can make it difficult to find a home in the Brookside neighborhood. Now, there are other neighborhoods surrounding here that kind of have a Brookside feel. If you're looking for that city living, walkability, close proximity to downtown, you can definitely find that in areas like Waldo, West Plaza, South Plaza, and even some neighborhoods on the Kansas side like Prairie Village, Mission Hills, and Westwood. But we just got super lucky with the street that we ended up on, and one of my neighbors, who is a good friend and actually my broker, is the main reason that I got into real estate to begin with. A little over a year ago, we sat down and had lunch, and I was like, hey, you know, I've been doing sales for construction for 15 years. I'm kind of getting bored with it. I know houses inside and out. Do you think I should get my real estate license? And Dan was like, hell yeah, you should.
Yes! Hell yeah!
So here we are a little over a year later, and now we're growing this relocation channel for people just like you who are looking to move to Kansas City. And by the way, my name's Kyle. I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Kansas City, and we help people all the time relocate here from out of state. So if you're considering relocating to, buying or selling a home in Kansas City, shoot us a call, text, email, day or night. We would love to help you make that smooth move to KC. But the people here are one of the things that I love most about living in Kansas City. Again, again, coming from Denver, it's hyper individualism almost out there. You have a lot of things and activities you can do without necessarily being in a group setting, or at least that's what I found. Maybe other people were able to find that there, and I know there are, but for whatever reason, it just didn't take with us. But here in Kansas City, you definitely get that Midwestern hospitality. People are friendly. I know every single one of my neighbors, and that is not something that I can say when I lived in Colorado. Actually, the house that we lived in before we moved here, we lived in for 3 years, and we didn't realize there were other kids on our street until the week leading up to us moving back to Kansas City. So by far, my biggest pro for living in Kansas City is the people and the sense of community. Now, another pro about living in Kansas City is the traffic. Again, coming from Denver, the traffic in the Mile High City is absolutely atrocious. I don't know how many times I got stuck on I-25 on a Saturday just trying to get to IKEA, for the love of God, a parking lot. It was absolutely awful. Now, we do get some traffic here, and especially if you get closer to downtown during rush hour, you're going to find some congestion. But with that being said, you're not going to have trouble getting across town on a Saturday or Sunday because the traffic just isn't what it is in other major cities. Now, it is a little interesting that the traffic is so much worse in Denver because the population difference between metro areas is only about 700,000. But if you're moving here from a bigger city, you will be relieved to know that the traffic here is not that bad. Now, my first con with living in Kansas City is public transportation, because there really isn't that much, and I am comparing this to Denver and their light rail system, which is pretty extensive. You can get almost anywhere in the metro area on this light rail system. In Kansas City, we have nothing like that. Now, we do have a bus system, which is more focused on the South Kansas City area. In North Kansas City, they did just introduce a new transportation option called Iris, which is like an Uber or Lyft for people in the Northland. And we do have a streetcar, which is being extended currently from Union Station all the way down to the Country Club Plaza. It'll actually be about 8 blocks from where I live now, and that's going to be completed in 2025. Not only that, but we did have a brand new international airport just open in February of this year in 2023, which is giving us a lot more options for travel and more nonstop flights. Now, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We release videos every week about what it's like to live in Kansas City. And if you've watched our channel in the past, you probably have seen that we have another pros and cons video. Literally, that was the second video that I ever shot, and I think it's awful, but it is our best performing video, which is why I'm reshooting for our 20th video on this channel, a new pros and cons video to give you a little more insight into who we are and what Kansas City is really like through our eyes. My wife and I, we have 3 boys, and we absolutely love living in Kansas City, but even more than that, we love helping people relocate here. So again, shoot us a call, text, email if you're considering moving to Kansas City anytime in the not so distant future. One of the next things that I consider a pro and a con is the weather. Now, it is much more humid here than it is in Denver, but I kind of like it. I mean, honestly, it was one of my biggest fears moving back to Kansas City was the wretched humidity. But now in the summertime, I wear my shorts, my tank top, and I love being outside in the humidity. We have a screened-in porch, and it keeps all of the bugs, the mosquitoes, and all that stuff out of our porch. So I spend a lot of time out there reading, doing work, and just watching all of the kids play on our street, because that is what every day is like here in Brookside, especially on our street during the summer, is 20 plus kids just running back and forth across the front yards. Now, we are coming out of my least favorite season, which is the winter, and spring is in the air. The first flowers are on the trees, and oh my gosh, it's done so much for my mental health. I can't even believe it. That is something that you need to know, is it is terrible here in the winter. It's cold, it's cloudy a lot of the times. We don't get a ton of snow. If anything, we get more ice, but that's only a few months out of the year. And what we always try to do is get out of town for at least a week or two in January or February, because that does help break up the winter months. Now, spring and fall in Kansas City, my absolute hands down favorite time in the year. You have all these beautiful flowering trees, all of these different colors, and the leaves changing in the fall, and it's absolutely gorgeous. The weather is mild, so it's nice to be outside. Today, it actually feels like the first spring day, and it's the very, very end of March, but it does tend to heat up rather quickly through April and May, and summer will be here before we know it. Frankly, I'm looking forward to it. Now, one of the cons with the spring is allergies. We have pollen covering our cars in the springtime, and we have these huge, massive trees in this historic neighborhood, which I absolutely love. But in the spring, you do have to use a lot of saline, a lot of nasal spray, and a lot of antihistamines. So if you have really bad seasonal allergies, that's something that you're going to want to know moving to Kansas City. Another thing that I consider both a pro and a con of living in Kansas City is things to do. Now, look, we don't have the ocean, we don't have mountains. One of our favorite things to do is go to the lake. So we have a lot of lakes here in Kansas City. For large bodies of water, we have Table Rock and the Lake of the Ozarks, which are within about 2 to 3 hours of the Kansas City metro area. But within the Kansas City metro, we have lots of options in real close proximity to downtown. Longview Lake, Lake Jacomo, Blue Springs are all within 20 to 25 minutes of downtown Kansas City. And if you want to access bigger lakes, Smithville and Clinton Lake are only about 45 to 50-minute drives from downtown Kansas City as well. And if you're just looking to get outdoors, do some hiking, take a day trip, go to a swim beach, you have a lot of options here within the metro area, including Shawnee Mission Park, which has its own swim beach and small lake as well. In addition to that, I love going to the art museum. We have amazing art shows here in Kansas City. The Plaza Art Fair, the Brookside Art Fair are two of our favorites, but Lenexa has one. All of these municipalities surrounding Kansas City have their own functions and family events. So wherever you end up, you can usually find something in real close proximity. It's one of my favorite things about living in and exploring Kansas City. And this is why people reach out to us, because not only have we lived here for a long time, but we're going around and doing vlog tours of all these different parts of the city. So we're finding out even more information. So if you're looking for resale home, a new construction home, we have relationships with builders in the area. We would love to get on a one-on-one consultation with you and see if we can find the right fit for you. The final pro about living in Kansas City, and one of the main reasons that we moved back here, is affordability. The median house price in Kansas City is $250,000. Now, it depends on where you want to live, because if you're looking in Johnson County, which is known for its public schools and great amenities, it's one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Kansas. It also houses the second largest city in Overland Park with almost 200,000 people. The price point in Johnson County is right around $400,000. If you're looking over there, you are going to pay a higher price point, but you're typically going to get a little more square footage as well than you will for $250,000 in the city. Now, I say affordability, but things aren't always as they appear. Over the last 3 years, we've seen massive appreciation gains, which have led to increased taxes, and the tax rate here in Kansas City is 1.3 to 1.4%, which is much different than what I was paying in Colorado at just 0.6%, with some of the lowest property taxes in the country. With that being said, groceries, gas, utilities, all of those things fall on the lower side of the national average here in the Kansas City area, making it an overall very affordable place to live. So again, we love making these videos about Kansas City. If you are considering relocating to, buying or selling a home in Kansas City, shoot us a call, text, email, day or night. We would love to help you make that smooth move here to KC. If you are moving here, drop a comment below. Let us know which part of the city you're most interested in and where you're moving from. Also, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell to make sure you're notified every time we release a new video. Until next time.